Hello degens. My lord, it's actually ridiculous that a monthly revenue report can cause so much freaking trouble. That said though, I think that there are some takes right now, not only from the community, but also from some content creators. So today, I just want to like throw in my shit takes in there as well, because freaking screw it. So yeah, let me quickly talk about these numbers over here, and then I'm going to address some of the things that other content creators have said. Let's start with the numbers. 96 million for Zenless. That's a pretty freaking crazy launch. 36 for Genshin Impact and 35 for your honky Starbucks. To be honest, great numbers. If I was MiHoYo, I would be very, very happy. And then we're gonna do the thing where we look at Wuthering Waves and notice that it has made about 30 million as well. And to be honest, if I was Kuro Games, I'd also be very happy, maybe even more happy. Now, why? I'm willing to bet about maybe $3.50 that they don't reinvest nearly as much as MiHoYo back into their IPs. And despite that, they are still pulling such numbers. Now, if you don't believe me about the reinvestment, I'm gonna have another video coming out on that, so stay tuned. But if we forget about the stupid rivalry between Zenless, Genshin, and Wuthering Waves or whatever, like why aren't you guys complaining about Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle making more than Wuthering Waves? Like my degens, just forget about it for 1 second and think. What this actually tells us is that anime style open world games are doing well. So if you are a weeb, open world game enjoyer, then my little degens rejoice rather than being sour that your favorite game, oh yeah, it didn't do that well, but it did freaking $30 million. It is like top 7 out of thousands of games. What this means is that other companies are gonna be like, I bet, time to put some more money into it. We're gonna have more choices. And maybe, just maybe, one of these companies may surpass Genshin. Maybe they'll surpass MiHoYo. Who knows? And if they did, that would only be a good thing because it means that Genshin will be forced to get better. Now, what I would say is like 96 million on Zenless. Man, why are people freaking surprised? I don't know why, but freaking content creators on the western side of the world, I don't really understand why people took a shit all over Zenless, and somehow we're left with like even the bold guy defending it harder.
For what it is, I see a promising future, and I do think that this game can continue to get better. I am enjoying Zenless Zone Zero very much for what it is
than a lot of the normal crew. So honestly, I'm like pretty disappointed in all of those creators who just took a shit on Zenless and then peaced out. And then I know that there are some people who see that 96 million figure and they just like, oh man, I couldn't see this coming. How could Zenless possibly hit these kinds of numbers, you know? And unfortunately, your boy Mtashed is one of them. I gotta say, I just don't agree with old mate here. Now, before I start though, remember that I am criticizing the lad's arguments and not the person himself. Like, I'm sure that he is a nice guy and he doesn't DM kids and shit, so no shade to the man himself.
This game popped off with $96 million. This is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is a lot of people are comparing Zenless Zone Zero to Wuthering Waves, and they're saying, wow, Wuthering Waves only did 46 million. And only 29 million this month. This did 96 million at the launch. And my response to that is, I don't know how.
Why not? Like, bro's got freaking 952k subs, but surely he has like some semblance of an idea as to like how they're hitting the 96 mil?
Honestly, I don't know how.
Man, what the frick?
I think maybe some of it comes down to all the free 5 stars that people got in Wuthering Waves. But
I don't think
zero
so.
part of me.
I don't think so. I disagree.
Not even like a little bit of me was tempted to spend money in Zenless Zone Zero because everything was so easy.
Okay. Hold on. Okay. This is the part where I just think he's completely off base. So what he's implying here is that difficulty is the reason as to why we should be spending money to pull characters to clear content. No. I don't think so. Difficulty isn't why people pull. Gacha games are not something you should do the whole like, oh, sell me a pen thing because you need the pen. Like, let's take MiHoYo for example. I'm gonna come over here, and so this is like the PSN achievement trophies thing for Genshin Impact. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna scroll all the way down to one of the last achievements, and it's this one here. Hopefully you guys can see that. But that is clear floor 12 of Spiral Abyss, of which 10.7% of all players have done, and or even 13.48. Regardless, that is a really, really low number. And that is just counting first time clear, by the way. There is no guarantee that they'll keep doing Abyss. And I know it's not a perfect data point, but therefore I would assume about maybe like 5 to 10%, to be honest, of players are actually clearing your Memory of Chaos, your Abyss, and your Shiyu Defense. And there is just no freaking way that 5 or 10% of your player base are actually the ones that are contributing to that 96 million type of figure. So let's talk about what I think MiHoYo's actual strategy is, and I've talked about this before, but also why it actually works. They're catering to casuals like me nowadays, like the type of people who has money but less time, because I have a full-time job, so I'm earning the mesos. But on the other hand, I don't want to mold like crazy and spend a lot of time. But as for spending, it's because I love a lot of their different characters. At this point, no one can argue with MiHoYo's mastery in creating lovable characters. I'm a massive fan of Furina, Nahida, Klee, Acheron, Firefly. I love Topaz, Himeko, and your boy Welt. I even kind of like this kid as well. And of course, a massive fan of Kiana from Honkai Impact 3rd as well. Like, I've even got a whole bunch of merch as well. Let me show you. So these are all like pins from different HoYoverse IP. And then on top of that, I've got an Acheron sword. Like, holy crap, that is some more ninja shit. But I got this stuff because I actually like the characters. That's why I put money into the games. Because I want to, not because I need to, which is what Mtashed is suggesting. VTubers are a very similar phenomenon. But let's go back to our boy Mtashed and see what else he has to say.
And I was like, I don't really need anyone else. I don't really care. I think they give some pretty good 4-star units and things that you could compete with.
But I don't like them.
Ambi was actually pretty damn good. I don't know, man. I didn't think it would do that good of revenue, based on the viewership. But again, viewership isn't everything. That's what this is.
Okay, he's right there. The thing about Zenless is that you can't really do like funny shit. And honestly, that applies to most gacha games. Like, I'm sure you've seen those funny clips from GTA 5 or that game where you have to hide as objects and the other team finds you. Like, that's some pretty funny shit. Gacha games generally don't really have that kind of stuff to make content with. Like, the best we've got is Genshin and that wind trace thing. But yeah, let's move on because there is another thing that I wanted to address.
The entire video was about. Viewership does not mean that the game is not going to be successful financially. And not only is it number 1, it doubled the next best.
I mean, when all of the other content creators are busy like taking a giant shit on it, then sure, I can see why you are surprised. All right, let's keep going.
Tripled the next best. And this is pretty wild. Now, these aren't unheard of numbers. You can see just a month before, Honkai Star Rail did 95 million.
That's a lot of money.
HoYoverse just makes a ton of money. That's all there is to it. They make a ton of money, and between all of their games, they're making hundreds of millions of dollars a month.
And he doesn't ever like stop to question why. He just thinks it's because of that maybe 5 to 10% of those more hardcore players. Now, I know it does feel that way because, you're watching this video. If you're watching this video, you're automatically probably a little bit more hardcore than the people who just kind of log in and do dailies and log out. But this next part is, I think, my next point.
So make good quality of life changes, make good updates to the game like you have with HSR, and nobody will complain.
Nah, I don't agree with that. No, sorry. I would appreciate a lot of quality of life updates, like being able to have sets for your equipment and stuff, but I don't agree that it is a priority for HoYoverse. Why? Why don't they do quality of life? Because they don't need to. Like, yeah, sure, it would be awesome if we could like configure teams in Zenless, but all of the quality of life in the world isn't going to make me or anyone else love the game, right? It's going to make me hate the game less and kind of like get rid of some frustrations, but it's not going to make me love it. And that is the difference. MiHoYo focuses their time and money into making people love their games, their characters, their lore, their worlds. Like, let's take Wuthering Waves for example. Did anyone actually pull for Cheng Li because of her personality? Like, yeah, maybe if her personality was characterized by her big titties, then sure, alright, I believe you. That said though, I do think that some companies are trying, Wuthering Waves included. Like for these guys, some of their more recent quests actually made me like Jinshi, for example. But no one really has the balls to kind of like go all out in this area. Like spending a shitload of money into making animated shorts, I'm sure you guys understand how much making animes cost, and investing so much time into like the story and all of that. Like, let me remind you, Wuthering Waves rewrote their whole damn story in a few months and thought, yeah, you know what, that's good enough. let's ship it. Back to Zenless, we've got things like the O Ellen swing animation, which is an ad, but this shit costs money, you know? It's not just like stitched together gameplay. And then for Star Rail, we've got like this whole ass musical with a music video. Production is so expensive. And then back over to Zenless, Ju Yuan has 3 videos, 3 animated shorts to develop her character. And as a result of all of this, you know what happens then? We get a crazy amount of fan created content. You know, stuff like this, because we feel like we know these characters. So much of these like fan created content, they feel borderline canon because we have the same understanding of these characters and what they would do and what they're like. I would say that it's a very similar strategy to what Blue Archive does. And look at that. Not even an open world game. It's like your normal ass mobile game. They're making 11 mil. So yeah, to kind of sum that up, I'm sorry my man Mtashed, but I don't think it's about the difficulty at all. It's almost 100% about, do I like the character or not? And so let me know if you feel the same way below. Now, I know that there are meta chases 100%, but I would say for the vast majority of us, I think that's the case. All right, and so the next thing I wanted to talk about was a few of Gacha Smack's points. All right, this part right here. And before I get into it, I just want to say, like, I think Gacha Smack is a really smart dude, but this is a part that I do disagree with, so.
Performance based off of what I'm looking at, because based off what I'm looking at, it's actually not a success. If anything, they barely even broke even on what they do with their other 2 games. It might even be a bit of a failure. But as time goes by, time will tell if this was a new audience and Genshin and Honkai just had a bad month, or if it's just them competing with themselves in a bad way.
So there is a lot of context that you're going to be missing because I'm only showing a short clip but he's essentially arguing, from what he can see, the Zenless audience is taking away money from Genshin and Honkai. So it's kind of like the ceiling, the revenue ceiling at this point looks the same. So I disagree with this, and I think that this is a symptom of only looking at the data itself but not considering the context. And he actually says it himself, maybe Genshin and Honkai had a bad month. That is actually exactly what happened. For that month, they were relatively dead patches. The characters that were released, they weren't nearly as popular as some of the other ones. In Genshin, it was actually a full-on rerun.
But that's my thoughts on this. I don't really look at it as Zenless Zone Zero killed it. I looked at it as Zenless Zone Zero just has the same damn audience.
No, I can't agree with that. I really do think that this time, Zenless, they not only got the furries, but also the people who aren't into open world games. There are a lot of people out there that are like that. Absolutely, I can 100% appreciate that a lot of the players, probably the majority actually, MiHoYo definitely tapped into their existing market. But there is just so much more to Zenless. What about like the whole urban and retro feeling, that Persona kind of vibe, right? Me personally, I'm a fantasy fanboy. I like things like Genshin, so I can't really relate. But a lot of people do love that kind of setting. And the other thing that sets it apart from Star Rail and Genshin is the action combat. Yes, Genshin is kind of action combat, but you gotta pay way more attention in Zenless, and it is way more dynamic and active. And he does talk about this, right? I think he is on the money. He just doesn't have certainty that that's what had happened. All right.
As usual, if we go over here to the separate, China did 66 million of that 96, which is fucking ridiculous. And then when you look at Honkai and Genshin Impact's China versions, which where the hell is that even at? Here we go. Honkai Star Rail, dude, it dropped from 60 down to 16, bro, in China. That is insane. And what that tells me is that China,
I don't think that proves anything though.
China's trendy as hell and just jumps on the next popular HoYo game. That's what that tells me. When I look at Genshin, it's the same thing, 38 down to 19. What the I mean, this is way worse though.
I don't know, I just don't see it.
You take these numbers and just plug them in here and then boom, there you go, right?
Oh god. I get his point, but I think that was probably an overly simplistic way of attributing like the cause of what actually happened here. There's just no consideration for anything else that could have possibly caused that, right? Like, I don't know, maybe MiHoYo's offices burnt down or something, and the whole Star Rail team died. I don't know. Maybe Chinese Star Rail players just don't like the mommy archetype. Maybe a larger part of them are more meta players, and considering Jade wasn't that meta, they didn't pull. But to me, what it sounded like here was bada bing, bam, boom, pow. 66 million. Boom, that's the deficit right there. And unfortunately, I just can't agree with that. To be clear, he goes on for like 17 minutes on this thing. I do agree with him with a lot of his video, but I just wanted to use these kind of talking points to make a point. And so the last creator I wanted to talk about is MrPokke, who freaking uploaded a 48-minute video. I actually don't have much to say about this guy. He's a master at yapping very neutrally. I actually managed to watch all 48 minutes of his damn video. I'm pretty sure I agree with pretty much everything that he said for the most part. I do think that he is on coke though, and if possible, I would like to have some of whatever he's on. And so all in all, let me finish it like this. Do you like gobbling glizzies? Like, lads, do you like some of that like kind of shit? Like, I personally don't, but you might, or someone else might, and that's okay. It's called a preference. To be very clear, I think that Wuwa is a good game, absolutely. But after a month of playing it religiously, I just realized that it wasn't my thing. That's okay. I just got open world fatigue, I didn't want to do Abyss again, and I didn't actually really like any of the characters, let alone love them. And that's also okay. Now, don't get me wrong, I would certainly give it like an 8 out of 10. It's got loads of awesome things going for it, like the combat and those hologram bosses. I think the hologram bosses are actually such a great idea. But in terms of what I was looking for, it's not it. And you know what? That's okay. So, what I do want to leave you guys with is a yo, just chill, my degens. Your game is great, no matter which game you're playing. Unless you're playing one of the games that are down over here, in which case I would probably start coping, because your game might be dying. That said though, that does bring us to the end of the video. Like my guys, there is no drama here. Adults disagree. Boo-hoo, get over it. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. That said, that is the end of the video. So, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.